So I'm recording. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is day 4 with AromaSharing and Dr. Ollie. And tonight, let me tell you a little bit of background of Dr. Ollie. Oliver Wenker, medical doctor, also known as Dr. Ollie, is European board certified in anesthesiology, critical care medicine, and emergency disaster medicine, as well as an American board certified anti-aging and regenerative medicine. He's also a fellow in integrative cancer medicine and a fellow in functional, metabolic, and nutritional medicine. He retired from the University of Texas, where he held titles of professor and adjunct professor. Dr. Ollie served many years as an emergency physician on board of rescue helicopters. He's worked as a trauma field physician, a rescue diver, disaster lead physician, and is chief of a medical team for special police forces. He also holds a master's degree in business administration from Rice University in Houston, where he received one of the prestigious Jones Award for academic excellence. He's an international keynote speaker, an educator, and a best-selling author. We all love Dr. Ollie, so let's welcome Dr. Ollie again tonight to talk about CBD.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So exciting. We have a full hour, if you can stand that, about CBD. And what I want to do tonight is, in the last 1.5, 2 years, I got a lot of questions about CBD. So I kind of collected those and I made a lecture out of it that I will tell you basically what are the most frequently asked questions, and I'm going to give you the answer. So that should make you a pretty good specialist at the end of this hour. So let me share the screen with you, and here we go. Let me just find the lecture. Here we go. All right, and I'm going to confirm either with Sandra or Elizabeth. You guys see the screen right now, and you still hear me?
CBD.
CBD it is. Okay, with AromaSharing left and right. Yeah, so this is what we're going to do today. But first, I'm going to announce a winner, or 2 winners, in fact. We, in addition to the auction, also did a giveaway. And in fact, we just wanted 1 winner, but we just got so good submissions that we decided to do 2. And I don't even know what we're going to give away. It's like I'm going to consult with my team what we're going to give away, but Donna Fricke is the winner, and she's going to get a little bit bigger package or whatever that is than the runner-up, BJ Rolander. So congratulations to Donna and BJ. You both going to get a pack from us, and my daughter Dana is going to be contacting you somehow through Facebook probably and figure out what your address is so we can send you something. So congratulations. And this is what happens when you go to the Facebook posts and you answer if we have questions and you make comments, we might just get picked to be a winner. So congratulations again. Well, so today let's talk about CBD. And the question is, why should I talk about CBD? Well, the answer is I'm pretty qualified to do so. I'm one of the first physicians in the US to work with CBD. Had a kind of special permission at that day, and CBD was pretty early already going around in the anti-aging medicine, interestingly, for beauty. And, you know, regulations for beauty being cosmetics, it's pretty easy compared to, being CBD a nutritional supplement or even a medicine. So here you see me in my laboratory, one of my few laboratories, and thanks to my wife, Ellen, at this point, because she every once in a while tolerates me in the kitchen or wherever I put out my laboratory. But I have been using CBD for a long time, let's say just this way. And in fact, when Gary Young came to our house, I gave him the first CBD he ever had. And immediately we started tinkering together with different essential oils and different oil mixtures. And it took me a while to figure out how to best mix those oils. And so, yeah, I have quite some experience with that stuff. And you see, I'm not getting it in small bottles. This is probably 250 grams here. I have about a kilo in the fridge right now of CBD powder. So what is CBD? Well, CBD is cannabidiol. Cannabidiol is an abbreviation for a chemical formula, and you see it here. It's a natural substance from a plant called hemp, and it is not to be confused with marijuana. Okay, that's for those of you who have not really checked yet what the difference between CBD and marijuana. Marijuana is called THC, what the difference is, and I will show you that. CBD has zero psychoactive effect. In other words, it doesn't make you cuckoo. That's one of the reasons why it should be legal, right? It has many uses in humans and animals, and for me, it's really an absolute true treasure from God and nature. So what is then the difference between CBD and marijuana? And that's a very important question to know the answer to, because we now have CBD with Young Living, and some of you have a great business opportunity also with CBD, but you need to understand what the difference is because people will ask you. So this is hemp versus marijuana. You see the plant already looks different. And I say used to look different because today's hemp plant looks a little different than the hemp plant 5 years ago. So 5-10 years ago, you see the hemp plant, which is also called the cannabis plant, looks certainly different than the marijuana plant, which is also cannabis, right? So you have a plant, cannabis, that can be grown either into hemp or into marijuana. And I'm going to tell you the difference. But then when you take the main cannabinoid out of hemp, you get CBD, cannabidiol. When you take the main cannabinoid out of the marijuana plant, you get THC, which we call tetrahydrocannabinol or marijuana. And you see the formulas are slightly different. And you see here, very tall, if you put a man in front, it's about twice the size of a man or human. And you see the very big stems that you can use to create textiles and building materials and all kind of stuff. And up here, very densely planted, up here you see flowers and leaves where you're going to have the resin that creates your CBD. Now here on the marijuana side, the plants are rarely taller than a human. They're very bushy, and you see they have a lot of flowers and leaves and not much stem. So what is the difference? Well, you have female and male, like in humans and in animals, also in the plants. And so when you look at the male cannabis plant, you see these little pollen sacs, let's call them testicles in man, but pollen sacs in plants. When you go over to the woman, you have the uterus in the woman, but here we call them basically also uterus with a little feather, and that feather has a glue on it. So when the pollen releases, it flies in the air and gets stuck on the glue on this little feather, and that basically makes the female plant pregnant. Now, let's look on the field. So here you have a regular field. The farmer goes out, puts out the seeds. 50% of the seeds are typically female, 50% of the seeds are male. You see here the male is pretty tall here on the left side, long stem, very few flowers and leaves, whereas the female, not as tall, but very bushy and a lot of flowers and leaves. So now imagine, so here the pollen gets loose, it fertilizes the woman, and the woman gets pregnant, the cannabis woman, and she's going to be very happy and put all the energy in growing her baby. And what is a cannabis baby? A cannabis baby is a cannabis seed or a hemp seed. And hemp seeds are fantastic to eat. They're very, very healthy. Now let's imagine you go into that field and you rip out all the males. So you only have females, like here on the right. Well, the female still wants to get pregnant, but there's almost no pollen, so she doesn't get impregnated or get pregnant. So she gets very mad and angry, frustrated, sexually frustrated, and she starts creating a lot of glue, instant glue, super glue, to catch the few pollen that are flying around. And the glue is produced here in the leaves, in the flowers, and that glue, that aggressive glue, is a resin we call marijuana. Whereas when the woman is pregnant, the cannabis woman, she doesn't have to create that very aggressive resin. And the resin she creates is very benign, called CBD. So that's the main difference. So CBD comes from a sexually satisfied pregnant cannabis woman, whereas the marijuana comes from a sexually frustrated cannabis plant. So it's a good way to kind of remember. So where does the plant produce these resins, the CBD, the THC, marijuana, or some other of these cannabinoids? Well, when you look at these leaves in the flowers, you see these little mushrooms, and we call them trichomes. And you see they're all white. And so these leaves we also call sugar leaves because they look like somebody has powdered sugar on them. And so these are the sugar leaves that produce, these little mushrooms produce the resin. And when they white, like you see right here, the plant is ready to be harvested for CBD. When you leave the plant alone a little longer, and when you only have females, the glue becomes different and it becomes amber colored. And that's when you're gonna get marijuana. So the difference between the two, again, when you have a field with male and female, you get the babies, which are the hemp seeds, different plants, cannabis families or cannabis subfamilies do that. And CBD rich in the good old times meant about 2 to 3% CBD. That has changed tremendously by selecting very specific seeds and doing some other tricks with the plants. Today, you can get up to 20-25% CBD out of a hemp plant. And THC, very, very low. By law in the US, it needs to be below 0.3%. In most of Europe, it needs to be below 0.2%, with exception of Switzerland, where it needs to be below 1%. So Switzerland, very generous. Now, on the right here, when you do female-female, you remove all the males, you get this aggressive resin, which is a different type of families of the cannabis plants, and THC rich means 15 to 40% marijuana and less than 1% CBD. So that's the difference. And here you see one more time, all these little trichomes that are producing the resin. Now, if you want to learn more about all that, and I'm going to show you that at the end, because that's one of our special offers for AromaSharing. I created last year, I worked the whole year, a little more than a year on this. We send out film teams and drone teams all over the US into the fields, into the farmers, to the manufacturing plants. And I created 12 documentaries. And these are really educational documentaries. So it's not like a slideshow you're seeing now. Yeah, there's some slides every once in a while, but it's made with all the movie material that we created, the film material. And so I'm showing you here, you can forget this link because we have a better link for you now with AromaSharing. All right, can you apply Young Living CBD under the tongue? That's a question I get all the time. The answer is not really, not yet. At this point, and that can change very, very soon, it is illegal. There's a bill now for the second or third time, a bipartisan bill that will be voted on very soon to make CBD a dietary supplement. The moment that bill gets through, you can put CBD under the tongue. Now, those of you who have used Young Living CBD from the first day, you might remember that the label said, put it under the tongue. And then suddenly the label was changed, but the oil was not changed. Still the same oil in it, but a different label. Now the label says, put it on your skin. Well, that's because right now, CBD in the US is still regulated under the Cosmetic Act and not under the Supplement Act. And so this is about to change, we hope. The cat is out of the sack. I mean, everywhere you buy CBD, it's edible, it's oil that you put under the tongue, it's like gummy bears and all that stuff. But the law has not yet followed up with what's happening in the market. So this is, I'm just saying, this may happen very, very soon. And I hope at that point, we're going to switch the label again. When I say we, it's Young Living. And then you're going to be able to put the CBD back under your tongue where it has a much better absorption than on the skin. So a big question, especially in Europe, I'm getting all the time is why do Young Living CBD labels list milligram and not percent? Because most products, you go on the internet, you go into a store, they will give you a percentage. Well, let me tell you a few things here. First, bias beware. The studies show that up to about 85% of cannabis products, whether it's CBD, marijuana, or another product, They contain pesticides, solvents, and other contaminants, and it's still like that today. This is a study from 2015. The 2018 study made by the government showed the same thing, and there was just a study released 2 months ago that showed it has not yet improved. 70% of CBD products are mislabeled, 43% are underlabeled, 26 are overlabeled, and some products have zero CBD, even if it says on the label it's a CBD oil or whatever it is, right? Seed to seal quality is very important, not just for your essential oil, but also for CBD products. So here is that recent analysis that I just told you a couple of months ago, okay? 25% of all CBD products are still not tested. I mean, imagine 25% of what's sold is not tested for microbes, for pesticides, herbicides, solvents, and heavy metals. And they tested over 3,000 CBD products. I mean, that's alone is a scandal, right? Only 13% of the companies test for everything like Young Living does. Only 42% of the companies test for potency like Young Living does. That means that like half the companies out there don't even know how much CBD they have in their products. And then 84%, like that's almost 9 out of 10 products, were found to be outside the limits of acceptable variance in potency, right? So this is just a scandal by itself. Another analysis in April, right? Over 50% of all the products are still not labeled correctly. Even worse, 30% of users of CBD dominant products and 37% of CBD THC dominant products did not have any CBD metabolites in the urine, meaning there was no CBD in the product, right? So this really puts in question whether they ever contain CBD. In addition, 20% of the CBD vapors, the cigarettes, electric cigarettes, had some products in the metabolites that they indicated that either the product did not contain CBD or that the heating coil of the vape device was too hot and burned all the cannabinoids. This is also one of the reasons why it might be dangerous to have essential oils in the vape cigarette, because some of these heating coils are very substandard. They made with lead and arsenic, by the way. So you might get heavy metals into your lungs and you might burn whatever substance you're inhaling. So again, percentage or milligram. Well, most products give you percent numbers. Why? Because the manufacturer does not know the exact amount. Seasonal fluctuation forever, for example, and that's true for especially full spectrum or broad spectrum products. If a manufacturer has no measuring capacity or doesn't want to spend all the money on regular testing, Young Living tests every single batch. We have all these machines, but this is a multi-hundred million laboratory that Young Living has because of all the essential oil they're measuring. And so they're measuring, of course, also the CBD. Now, if a percent information is given on the label, you as the customer should be able to calculate exactly how many milligram per milliliter or per dose is in the product. And the conversion from a percentage to milligram is often not possible, whether it's intentional or not. Now, let's look at the Young Living CBD. Very easy. I mean, there's a reason why in medicine we don't work with percentage. We only work with milligram because we need to know how much milligram per kilogram body weight we're giving a person, right? This is how we do it with all the medicine. We're not telling you, oh, I'm giving you that much percent antibiotic. No, that doesn't work that way. Okay. So let's have a look at the Young Living bottle. You see 1,000 milligram per bottle. It says it's right there, pretty big on the label, how much is in that bottle. Well, now it also says that it's a 30 milliliter, 1 ounce bottle. So now we know that we have 30 milliliters, and in those 30 milliliters, we have 1,000 milligram. Then we have a pipette in there, and we know that 1 full pipette is 1 milliliter. So since the month has 30 days, we know now we have 1 pipette a day or 1 milliliter a day. All we need to do now is to divide the 1,000 milligram into 30, and that gives us the dose of 33 milligram per day. You know exactly what you're getting. Now, this is the normal strength. We also have half dose, which is 500 milligram, but I always suggest that we go with the full dose, which is the 1,000 milligram. So the next question is, now you know what you take, is how does it work in your body? Well, it's the concept of homeostasis. Homeostasis meaning the balance of things. And CBD, interestingly, has the interaction with our body to create homeostasis in every single organ system we have, every single place in your body. The concept of using CBD was created by God and nature to interact with the human body, who has receptors for it, to create homeostasis. So it's a very important concept. And a lot of people use CBD as a bandage if they have pain, if they don't sleep well, whatever it might be. But the original intent why CBD exists is homeostasis. And so you see the many benefits of CBD. You can add every single organ system, the brain, the eyes, the heart, the intestines, the gut, the bones, the immune system, the skin, the kidney, the bladder. I mean, just everywhere. It's everywhere. It's balancing every single system. So the next question is, how does it do that? And what is the so-called endocannabinoid system? Well, here is a little cartoon out of my book. Like you already saw some other cartoons. I wrote a book on CBD. It's called The Power of CBD and Essential Oils. And I'm explaining in the book, also with these cartoons, the pieces of the endocannabinoid system. So endo means inside. That's the old word for inside. Cannabinoid, obviously we have cannabis similar structures or things in our body. And here we look all on the table. We see the keys, we see the keyholes, we see the cranes, we see the hammers, and we see the boats. So the keys are what we call in the scientific language a ligand. These are plant compounds. For example, lavender has some compounds, linalool, or some other peppermint has menthol. These are ligands or compounds. And they fit into certain receptors we have in our body. We call those keyholes the receptors. So if you have the right key, it will fit into the right keyhole. It will either open the door or it will close it, like at home, right? If you have the wrong key, nothing happens. And so the next piece we have are the cranes and the hammers. These are the enzymes. Either you build something up in the body or you break it down. And then we need little boats because most of our body is water and most of these cannabinoids are fat soluble. So we need to get them from one place to the other by using little boats. So if you understand this little picture, you already understand more than most physicians and scientists. You understand the endocannabinoid system. So let's look at these receptors and these ligands. So the ligand, the key is the CBD letter, for example. The mailman comes, puts it into the mailbox. If it fits, then the mailbox gets a little heavier and pushes down through the cell membrane. So the mailbox, the receptor, is typically on the outside of the cell membrane. And now the whole thing pushes down. That makes a change inside of the cell. And that change creates a whole domino stone reaction. They all fall down one after the other. Now here you see a scientific picture of CB1, cannabinoid 1, and CB2, cannabinoid 2 receptors. So if CBD attaches out here, something here inside the cell, here you see the cell membrane, will change and then something happens in the cell. So you understand already quite well now what happens. So before I continue, I need to do a little detour into our nervous system, the brain and the peripheral nervous system. So you see, they're all connected with each other, these nerves. And when you look at the nerve, you have many little hands, we call them dendrites, that receive the signal. Then it goes into the computer, we call the nucleus, and then it goes out through a long tail, we call the axon. And then it's given to the next cell through a structure we call a terminal button. It also looks like a hand, but it's called a terminal button because it's at the end. And so each of these nerves connects this way to 40,000 other nerves in the brain at least. So it's an absolute fantastic network of ring. And so we would think that when you put two nerves together, that this terminal button touches the dendrite of the next nerve. So when we look at that, and here's again a cartoon putting two nerves together, well, they really don't touch each other. They have a little gap here in between. And when we take this and magnify it, and you see here the terminal button coming down, you see down here the dendrite of the next nerve, but they don't touch. And the electrical signal coming down here cannot jump over here. So what happens? it releases these little bubbles. And these little bubbles contain a chemical that you produce in your body we call a neurotransmitter, because it transmits neurological signals. And so we have different of those. And depending on which one is released, that also depends on which receptor is activated, then we have different signals that can go through or not go through. Now, when you take the magnifying glass and you look at the receiving part, the dendrite, then you're going to see little manufacturing plants. And they manufacture something we call 2AG and something we call A. 2AG stands for a very complicated word. A stands for anandamide. Anandamide is the Sanskrit word for bliss or happiness. So it's the happiness hormone. And yes, you produce that yourself. In every single nerve beginning, you're producing these substances. And what they do with the little boats I showed you, they go backwards to these receptors and influence the signals. So you have a system built in every single nerve connection, in every single organ, in every single place of your body that can react in a fraction of a second to basically everything that's happening to your body. For example, creating homeostasis, either speeding up a reaction like these bubbles or stopping them depending on what's needed for homeostasis, for balance. And this is just an absolutely fantastic system. So when we look at the receptors, we see that these CB1 cannabinoid 1 receptors are mostly in the brain, spinal cord, and then different places. Whereas the CB2 receptors are mostly in the thymus, there's a little organ behind your collarbone or your, how you call it in English, your sternum. I mean, it's the medical term, or breastbone, that's what I was looking for. You also have it in your gut, in your bone marrow, everywhere you have these CB2 receptors. So that tells you that CB2, when activated, is mostly looking at the immune system, balancing the immune system. Whereas when you activate CB1, you're going to see brain effects. Marijuana activates CB1. This is why you get cuckoo and get nightmares and all kind of stuff and be like completely out of it when you take marijuana, smoke marijuana or eat it, because it works in your brain. Whereas when you take CBD, which goes basically only to CB2 receptors, there are none in the brain. There are almost very few. And so CB2 will activate your immune system and all the other things that happen in your body, but not make you cuckoo. And then we look at all other receptors that we know of, and they distributed all across your body. And we now know that they all have to do something with this endocannabinoid system. So let's go to the cranes and hammers. So the cranes are the construction crew and the hammers are the demolition crew. Yeah, of course, we need enzymes to, for example, produce anandamide. And then we need demolition enzymes to break it down or break down CBD or break down any medication or even food, right? So we need a balance between those, otherwise our body doesn't work very well. Now, here comes the thing. We always thought first that CBD works mainly by attaching to CB2 receptors, but that's not the main way it works. The main way it works, we know today, is by inhibiting, sending away the demolition crew. So the demolition crew cannot demolish anandamide, the one that is produced in your body. And anandamide we call an endocannabinoid because it's like a cannabinoid system or like CBD or marijuana, but it is produced in your own body. Every one of you is producing that. And because CBD sends the demolition crew away, we have more anandamide in our blood. And therefore we're happier, we sleep better, we have maybe less pain, all these kind of things that a happy hormone would do in your body. And then, of course, we have these cute little boats that bring these anandamides and 2AG, these endocannabinoids all around your body. So again, you want to learn more about that and see some movie clips, how we did that. You can go and join our CBD training, which is really one in a kind. There's just nothing like that out there on the internet right now. I'm checking every few days. Nobody has taken the effort, the time and the money to create something like that, and we have. So it's available to you, and you will see the offer at the end here for AromaSharing. So the next question is, what are cannabinoids? Well, I mean, we heard about CBD and THC, but in general, cannabinoids can be three different things. They can be phytocannabinoids, meaning they come from the plant. They can be endocannabinoids, so they come from the inside of your body. That's 2-AG and anandamide, and probably about 4 to 6 others. And they can be synthetic. So do not touch the synthetic one. They are dangerous. But here are the phytocannabinoids. We know that the cannabis plants has about 200 of those, roughly 180 to 200. The most well-known ones, of course, CBD and THC, marijuana, but there's also CBG, CBN, CBC, CBDA, THCV, I mean, all kind of stuff, right? The endocannabinoids I just told you are anandamide and 2-AG. So at least 6 right now, but we think there is now 8 that have been found. And the synthetics ones are really dangerous. And unfortunately, many products you order online or you buy in a store have been sprayed with synthetics to make it appear that they work better, because they bind, for example, 100 times to 1,000 times stronger to these receptors. And that I mean, it's just dangerous. I mean, the side effects of these things are terrible. And a lot of product that comes out of China right now is full of that crap. So now that you know what it is, that you know how it works, how much would you take? What's a normal CBD dose for humans? Well, let's look at that. We know that CBD is intended to support homeostasis, balance of the organ system. For that, you need between 10 and 40 milligrams per day. Now, if you have certain conditions and you want to use CBD as a bandage, you're probably going to have to use a little bit more, maybe 40 milligram, 50 milligram, or maybe 100 milligram per day. If you use it in children, and I'm mentioning that because that's what the studies were done with young children that had seizures that could not be treated. Otherwise, they started treating them with CBD from the cannabis plant. And in these studies, they used about 300 to 1,000 milligram per day. Now, that would be about a bottle, a 1,000 milligram bottle per day that you would take for whole months. And when you go to adults and use CBD as a medical drug, the studies have been done and the treatments are done anywhere between 500 and 6,000 milligram per day. So that would be 6 of the bottles that you buy, the bigger bottles, the higher dose bottles at Young Living, there will be 6 bottles per day. So just to show you the difference here. So the next question, can you use CBD for children? And I kind of already gave you the answer. Of course you can, because that's how CBD has been approved by the FDA because of use in children. Now, you can use up to 50 milligrams per kilo per day. So a child weighing about 10 kilo, this would be 500 milligrams per day. Again, that would be full half bottle that we have, the half dose bottle, or a half of the full dose bottle. An average weight for a 6-year-old is about 20 kilo, which means a daily dose for a 20-kilo child would be 1,000 milligrams. That's a full bottle a day, right? So clearly, Young Living CBD is not intended to treat medical conditions in children or adults, because just the way it's formulated to really create balance in your body with a balancing dose thing. But a child can certainly tolerate like 16 milligrams a day, which would be 1 pipette of the half dose bottle we have, the 500 milligram bottle. So don't be afraid, it's going to work. Can you use CBD for animals? That's the next question. Yes, you can. And in fact, you see, like dogs especially love CBD and love reading my books about CBD. But well, let's go back. What was this one? Yeah, let's go back. So all the studies so far that has been published have been done with dogs. And it's not like they took dogs and say, okay, let's see and give them CBD and see if it does something. No, they took dogs that either had seizures already, were under treatment, that had joint pain and were under treatment. And then they replaced some of the medication with CBD, or they added CBD to the existing medication. And it's interesting, in all the studies done, very similar results, independent of the disease that the dogs had. 80% of the dogs were significantly better using CBD than just using the drug alone, or or a combination of CBD and the drug was just superior to drug alone. So yes, the only question is, Young Living used to have a pet CBD, and why doesn't Young Living has no more pet CBD? Because the law changed. The law said it's not a dietary supplement right now. It's a cosmetic. Well, it's kind of difficult to apply cosmetic use to dogs. However, the moment, I hope, the moment that CBD is considered to be a dietary supplement by the lawmakers here, and hopefully that's going to happen soon, Young Living can sell again the pet CBD, because then you can put it into the food, into the drink, and or directly into the mouth of a dog or a cat. So what is a full spectrum oil, and what is a broad spectrum oil, and what is a CBD isolate? When you take the plant and you start extracting stuff out of the plant, and you extract everything you can, you get a full spectrum. But when you then start removing some of the components, then you're not full anymore. And that's called a broad spectrum. Now, the old broad spectrum definition was when you, for example, remove the chlorophyll, some of the terpenes that really tasted very bitter. But in the last couple of years, it has more changed to when you remove the THC specifically, then it becomes a broad spectrum. But by definition, it's when you just remove certain things. And then when you remove everything and just leave the CBD alone, then you get the CBD isolate. So CBD isolate by definition has 0 THC. And so Young Living is using CBD isolate because, of course, there's no danger to get any CBD, THC, any marijuana. And imagine, I mean, there's plenty of military people with Young Living, police people, healthcare providers, and they cannot test positive for marijuana, otherwise they lose their job. So when they consulted me early on years ago, I told them, look, stick with isolates for right now, because that's the only way we can guarantee that nobody loses a job because taking the Young Living CBD product. And we created basically, or Young Living created the smart spectrum, meaning, you can recombine it with any given essential oil that you, put on your skin, or hopefully then later on put under your tongue again. And so you can recreate a whole bunch of different smart CBD mixture. Let's say peppermint, which is good for the digestion, good for your brain, good for your concentration, good for your breathing. Well, you combine that with CBD, that will probably balance and give homeostasis to your gut, your brain, and your lungs probably. You combine it with lavender, which is more calming, then maybe you have a more calming effect on your brain. This is what we call smart CBD. So again, what is so special about Young Living CBD? Why is it different than any other CBD in the world? Well, again, this is a cartoon out of the book. So let's assume you're home alone and you want to move the piano to the first floor. It's just very heavy to lift. It takes a lot of effort, and it maybe doesn't work that good. But when you call all your friends, I mean, hey, it's up there in a minute and it's a breeze and it's really working well. Well, the same thing with plants, the same thing with essential oils, right? This is why we don't sell synthetic menthol, for example, like many synthetic essential oils that you buy in the store are just completely synthetic menthol, for example. Well, we give you an essential oil. Basically, the Young Living gives it to you as a whole, right? It's a mixture of all the plant extracts, the terpenes, which have the smell, cannabinoids, but also others here in the cannabis plant. So these are all the friends that you're calling. And so, of course, it works better. So people will ask you and said, what do you sell at Young Living? Do you sell isolate or full or broad spectrum? And you're going to say very proudly, we sell isolate. And then these people look at you and say, I don't want your product because you lost all the friends that are helping to carry up the piano. That way, the CBD that you're taking will not be as good for my knee pain than the broad spectrum I'm buying on the internet. Well, what they don't understand is we isolate, yes, we take the one alone, but we recombine them with other essential oils. And we call this the entourage effect, right? There's a word for that called entourage. That's the people you surround yourself with. And so here we combined with lavender, we combined with ylang ylang, we combined with peppermint, we combined with citrus. And by doing so, we create a whole bunch of working crews that work together and work much better for balancing all these different hormone body systems. So our CBD is way superior when you think about that than what's out there. It just, people don't catch up that easy, but you need to know that because you need to have that answer ready when people ask you. So the next question is, where does it come from? When you get Young Living CBD, where does it come from? Well, here you have it. It's from Colorado and from Utah. In fact, the one you're consuming right now is very likely from Colorado, because in Utah, there's 3 different fields right now where they're testing in different altitudes, different type of water and air and all, and soil especially. And then, of course, there's the lab in Lehigh at Young Living headquarters, where they have a biolab, basically, or, well, it's a bad word this way with what's happening in the world, but they have a laboratory where they grow plants and they test them. So here are some pictures from the field in Colorado. This, in fact, was the very first hemp field, CBD field, if you so want, that has been awarded the ultimate organic handling certification by the US Department of Agriculture. Absolutely clean air, clean water, no pesticides, no herbicides, no fertilizers. In fact, hemp plants don't need that. But still people do it, farmers, to just increase the yield. But here you see the Young Living field. And the other thing you see here, it's cut by hand. It's like a very, very good cigar where you do hand harvesting compared to like big machine harvesting, where you lose a lot of the content of the leaves. For example, these little trichomes I showed you, they may break off. And so at the end, you either collect them by hand, which they do here, and sometimes they have a machine that then collects it, but the cutting is done by hand. It's back-breaking work. And here you see that, right? I mean, these people are, I mean, we're not jealous at them. They work very, very hard for your CBD. So is CBD dangerous? Because some people think it is. Well, the analysis of medical studies have shown that CBDs have an absolutely favorable safety profile compared to any kind of pharmaceutical drugs, right? The most common side effects would be you get a little tired, you may or may not get a little diarrhea, or may not get a little change in appetite and body weight, which for most people, that's a welcome little effect, right? So yeah, so this is pretty good. There's very, very little in the literature of people having any major side effects. There's one case report in the whole literature for the last few hundred years, right? But we need to know there is some drug interaction, because CBD uses the same enzymes in the liver than about 85% of your drugs that you consume. So the question is, will CBD interfere with the drug? Or how I say it, will the drug interfere with CBD? Because your body was created to interact with CBD. Your body was not created to act with pharmaceutical drugs. That came later, okay? That came 20, 30, 40,000 years after the body was created. So when you look at studies, yes, we know that certain drugs like blood thinners, antibiotics, seizure medications, they are broken down by the same enzyme. And so the idea is, if you take CBD, maybe CBD is broken down first, and then the blood levels may go up on these drugs and you might be overdosed. Well, it's a valid concern, but we really look at it. You need a major amount of CBD to do that. And even in the big studies with really large amounts, they haven't really seen too much interaction, but we know it exists. But I can just tell you, with the very small dose, the homeostatic dose you're using, there's very little risk that you're going to have an interaction, because remember, you're still eating vegetables and fruits, and some of those use exactly the same enzyme systems also. And the doctor doesn't tell you not to eat vegetable and fruits. Sometimes he will sell you with blood thinners not to eat green vegetables, but there's also a better way to manage that. But anyway, that's what I just wanted to tell you. And again, we have in our CBD bootcamp with these 12 documentaries, we have a pharmacist that will tell you all about the interaction of CBD and medication, how these two interact. So to summarize this whole thing, it's about homeostasis, one drop at a time. And remember, Young Living CBD is absolutely superior to other CBDs on the market, because we are really the only ones with the knowledge and the capacity to mix it with essential oil, because we have seed to seal with essential oil, with the biggest and most knowledgeable essential oil company in the world, over 2 billion in sales every year. And now we're adding CBD isolates to these different essential oils, or the other way around, we add different essential oils to these isolates. And we can create a whole bunch of different smart CBDs. So that's really a very, very different approach to CBD than any other company. I mean, no matter what. I know there's some companies that will say, well, ours is really nano-formulated and water soluble and it absorbs better. Yeah, maybe. But you know, at the end of the day, if it's illegal to take it in your mouth anyway, you can nano-formulate as much as you want. Yeah, maybe you have a little better absorption to the skin too. But these measurements have really not shown that much at this point. But you know, it's a good way to think about it, but we still don't know what nano does in our body in the long run. Anyway, so that's kind of the discussion. I think we have an absolute superior CBD to anyone else in the world. Now, remember, hemp is the only plant that would feed you. You can eat the seeds, will clothe you, because hemp textiles were the number one textiles hundreds of years ago. And now you can buy a lot of hemp clothes these days. It will house you because you can create very cheap building materials with hemp, and it will heal you, yeah, because the FDA and the regulatory agencies already approved CBD as a medication. So it's a fantastic plant. It's a huge growth opportunity. If you want to do business and you know your friends, they know you doing essential oils and they told you many times, I'm not really that much into essential oils, maybe into toxin-free makeup, all that. But now everybody is into CBD. This is a huge growth opportunity here in the US and also in Europe. And we see right now Europe exploding. And so really take this seriously and approach your friends, those that you approached years ago about oils and they told you, no, not really oils. Ask them, what about CBD? And you tell them that you have a absolutely unique CBD that no one else in the world has. So here we come to the offers that I offer you on AromaSharing. So one, I wrote these two books. So the Doctor's Guide to Essential Rewards, we're going to rename it very soon to the Doctor's Guide to Loyalty Rewards. But at the book itself, there will be no changes. It's all the same thing besides that one word. It's 12 months to clean living. I was shocked to see as a physician how many toxins we consume through breathing, to eating, to drinking, to the skin every single day. And the effects, I mean, I have been talking the last 3 days when I did these lectures, I've been talking about these differences and how the hormones are completely upside down these days. And so here I just went and researched what it all does to the body. And so this book has about 600 scientific references. So if somebody wants to know a little bit more about the science about our products, Young Living products, they can look at it. The other thing is, you know, when you sign up a new person at Young Living, they often very confused. They're confused because we have so many products. So here as a doctor, I'm basically guiding you through 12 months. Every month, I'm telling you something else. And I'm giving you, at the end of the month, I'm giving you a table with the products that you need. And so the easiest way is to put that into your essential rewards, loyalty rewards every month. And I will tell you which ones to do. So that's an excellent guide for people that are not very familiar with all the products we have at Young Living, or for completely new people. So get that book. If you haven't read yet, I mean, I wrote it, so I have to say it's fantastic. But I just see that people who read it order way more because they start understanding what they're ordering. Okay, so if you want to grow your team, that would be a very good tool to do that. Now, the other book, of course, is about the topic we talked today. It's the power of CBD and essential oils. So it's written in 3 parts. The first part is all about what I told you today, how you grow marijuana, the legal situation and all that. The middle part is all about the medical science. So it's not really what we call compliant, but it doesn't have to be, because what I'm doing is I'm just showing you what medical studies do show in a variety of different conditions. And the third part of the book is when you want to mix CBD and essential oils. Now, I did that years before, and together with Gary also, years before Young Living had a CBD product. But we started years before mixing these things and seeing what it did and what worked well together. And so I'm giving you some ideas of what you could do and why certain oils mix very well with CBD. And in fact, so just to say, if you buy a single book, you get 30% AromaSharing discount. If you buy both as a bundle, which most people do as a bundle, you get 35% discount. All these books right now that we sell through AromaSharing are personally signed. Yeah, my wife, no, I sat down for the last 3-4 weeks, and every night I'm just signing books after dinner. I have a box of books that I'm signing. So I signed thousands of books ready for you. AromaSharing number 2, the offer. So I had it, right? Being isolated at home, socially distancing, all that. It is time, now that COVID is coming down, it is time that we meet again in person. And so people have done that very successfully to build the Young Living business, and they have been stuck for the last 1.5 years. They could not meet anymore. And so I decided to, or had the idea to sell the books by the box. So when you do the Doctor's Guidebook, you get 48 in a box. And when you do the Power of CBD book, you get 34, because that book is a little thicker, so less books go in a box. And what we do is we offer you a whole box at 50%. So when you invite people, you can give away books. You can invite them by saying, hey, come, maybe you ask for $5 or $10 entry price or something, or fee, but you can also just give them away. And this way you kind of drive your business. I mean, we have seen it over and over again in our own team. And not only are you getting 50% off, half price, you're also going to get, per box you buy, you're going to get 1 hour of Zoom with me. So I would do like a CBD Zoom like we just did now with your group, with your team. You can invite whoever you want. I can take up to 1,000 people in these Zoom calls. So I hope some people really consider buying a whole box and get an hour of Zoom with it. AromaSharing offer number 3. You probably know that I have been doing an essential oil symposium every year since 2017. In fact, we started in 2016. And this has become a huge thing. I mean, we have between 50 and 70, 80,000 even participants every single year. We have awesome speakers, awesome video, and really awesome video quality also. And so we are almost ready with the 2021. This is the 2020. This had 6 DVDs inside with over 30 hours of learning brought to you by Mary Young, Gary Young at the time, and myself, but many other Royal Crown Diamonds, authors of books. I mean, very famous people in the Young Living world or essential oil world. And we're going to do a very early discount for you right now for AromaSharing. We're going to come out with the symposium probably in the September timeframe. I'm still working on some videos, and then we need still to do subtitles and do some other things and print the DVDs. But you can get it like for almost half the price right now. So really early bird for just the online access, or a VIP package where you get the full access, but also a DVD set. And then you can do an all access bundle where you get even the previous one as and I mean an online access, because we don't have 17s, for example, anymore. Or you can have this all access bundle where we're going to get you not only the full access to full for 5 years now, which is over 250 videos. I mean, think about that. You're talking about 150 plus hours of education, top-notch education. You're also going to get, of course, a VIP access to the 2021 symposium. You're going to get DVD sets as long supplies last from 18, 19, 20, and 21. And so it's just great offer. So don't wait and do this, because it's going to get more expensive very soon. And then the second to last offer is a CBD bootcamp I told you about, right? I told you that I created 12 documentaries, each about a half an hour. And these are really documentaries, not just slideshows. With the film material that we captured, I spent a lot of money and time sending entire teams, as I told you, all around the US, the drone teams when we did harvests, and we went into manufacturing plants, into drying plants. So I'm explaining you everything there is you need to know about CBD. And it's an absolutely unique bootcamp. There's nothing like it on the internet anywhere. And look at that. The price is almost nothing for the amount of time and money we spend and effort to create this. So go in there and just get your 6+ hours. And in addition, with this bundle, you get a signed book of the CBD. That's why one of the reasons. And the CBD book, by the way, has almost 800 scientific references. So great resource. And the very last thing I just said, okay, team, let's really get crazy and let's do what we call the mega offer. It's the everything under the kitchen sink offer, right? It's a kitchen sink super mega bundle. And in fact, the full price of that, I just calculated yesterday, it's not 3,000, it's about 4,500. And look, you're saving about 75%. And I'm just saying, look, go and talk to some friends, put yourself together and consider getting these super bundles, because I mean, it's basically at cost. That's what we're doing. You get VIP access to the 21 Essential Oil Symposium. You get 10 2021 Symposium DVD sets you can give away to your leaders. You can make raffles you can use to invite people. You get online access with downloads from all the past events. Again, over 250 videos. You get bonus sets like 2018, 19, 20, and then of course the 2021. You get the CBD bootcamp, VIP access. You get the full case of CBD books and the full case of the Doctor's Guidebook, and then 2 hours of private Zoom training for you and your team, up to 1,000 people. So that's at cost. That's the best offer. We may even lose money on this one. I don't know. But hey, this is the thing. AromaSharing it is. And so we just created a completely crazy offer. So how do you find us? Well, either you just click on the link on the AromaSharing, or we created the site aromasharing.biocodeacademy.com. Again, aromasharing.biocodeacademy.com. And now you know what great offers we put out there for you for listening to us. And I thank you for all you that were live here today. And then thank you for all of you who will watch that later on. And so here we go. That was what I wanted to tell you. So we have 3 more minutes. Does anyone has a question? I think maybe the participants can ask questions, or you can even put a little chat. I see chat. Thank you. So I appreciate it. Amy, anyone else has a comment or a question?
I have a question. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about how to understand when something natural is in a nanoparticle?
Well, it's not natural anymore because nature doesn't create nanoparticles. That's a chemical process. And what you need to do with, natural stuff is quite small. Like we know that the molecule of essential oils are quite small. So that's why you can pack them into a nano vehicle, like a taxi. But the problem with as a scientist, I'm absolutely fascinated with nanoparticles. And I've been researching with those and even financing research in my function in the hospital at the time. We were working with nanoparticles 15, 20 years ago. The problem is we just didn't know what's going to happen with the nanoparticles in your human body. And so that's why Young Living decided not to use nanoformulated sunscreen, for example, or nanoformulated CBD, because we just don't have enough research yet. But when it comes to cancer, for example, absolutely fantastic opportunities to use nanoparticles. And in fact, when you do a COVID vaccine today, the COVID vaccines are either packed into a virus, that's the AstraZeneca and the J&J, or they packed into a nanoliposome, into a nanoparticle, and that's the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine is in a liposome. And that's what the people that are not for vaccination, that's one of the criticism they have. They say, look, we're just injecting everyone with nanoparticles. We don't know in the long run what it's going to do. And I must say, they're right, right?
Right. Okay. Thank you. We do have questions here.
Okay.
Somebody says, fantastic. Can't wait to get to the boot camp.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I see that. And then Dana, my daughter, just mentioned something. So the symposium video are the easiest way to have classes. And I did that. I mean, I used the symposium to do classes. And in every one of those classes, we typically signed up people. But what we do, we just pick one video, right? I mean, these videos are half an hour to 40 minutes, sometimes even an hour. Although if they're very long, I divide them into 2 pieces. But they're really great just to play a video and start a discussion about something and have the product at hand when you show the video. So this has been a very successful way for us to recruit new people into our business. And when I say recruit, it's mainly for us sharing a really good thing with other people.
Absolutely. Does CBD slow the heart rate, Dr. Ollie?
CBD is creating balance in the heart. And so we know that it can I mean, now I need to be very careful with compliance, but let's say I'm talking about the medical part as a physician. We know that CBD can relax blood vessels and therefore lower your blood pressure, and therefore can, in certain cases, increase the heart rate a little bit. But when you look at the studies, it's mainly beneficial to the heart and the cardiovascular system. Any other question?
Thank you, and fantastic. Can't wait to get to boot camp. They're very excited. I think the offers that you're giving are very wonderful. Great deals on those books. They're fabulous. So
Yeah, I hope some people realize how fantastic the kitchen sink offer is that we have. Really giving stuff away at cost. I mean, I don't even want to think about it as a businessman, but that's really a great offer. And I can only hope that people take some of these offers, the bookcase sale or the kitchen sink sale, to just restart the personal meetings again. I mean, that's so needed. People need to see other faces again to overcome a lot of psychological downside that we had with the social distancing. Okay, I guess my time is up. Elizabeth, are you taking over?
Hello, I am, and thank you so much for that. It was fascinating.
Thank you.
thanks, Dr. Ali. I guess you're probably on tomorrow as well, right?
No, that was my last one.
Ah, okay, okay. This is our last evening to ask Dr. Ali questions, but you can meet with him in his Zoom room.
All right, I see somebody's going to the kitchen sink. Amy, yeah, that's a really good idea, to be honest.
The symposium days. And yes, you did donate a package of books, symposium, all the symposiums. There's a whole bunch of products that you gave to the auction. I don't know where they are in the auction. I couldn't find them.
Okay,
So,
I'll go and search for it, but it looks like we gave you like almost a kitchen sink.
yes, almost a kitchen sink. That's right. So thank you so much. And I guess Elizabeth is going to bless us with the bingo gift soon. So we will stop recording now.